Welcome, everybody, to the Making Awesome podcast. It's a solo show this week. It is episode 195. We are just over a month away from the big 200. So that one's always a fun one. But hey, welcome everyone to the show. We've got a lot of interesting news to talk about that's been going on in the industry for the past couple of weeks. And so I think it kind of makes sense. We wanted to do a specific episode on the bankruptcy of Shapeways, but I could not find a bankruptcy attorney that wanted to talk about this in detail. Because, like, I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. I'm not a tax person. I'm not giving financial advice, and this is a cat. Anyways, you're new here, thanks for hanging out. We are going to be giving away some filament toward the end of the stream, so stay tuned for that as well. Link is in the chat in the pinned comment. If you are watching this back later on or listening audio only, you got to watch these live because we are starting to give away filament courtesy of Printed Solid, who's actually one of the topics this week, because Printed Solid is now making Prusament. Not all of it, but some of it. That's going to be really cool. We're going to talk about that as well. But so the big news, right? The big news that everybody seems to really care about is Micronics being acquired by Formlabs. So I'm going to talk about that one second, because the one that's big to me is actually the one that I don't think anyone really ever talked about, which is Nano Dimension has officially acquired Desktop Metal for very little money, comparatively. So we covered, like, 2 years ago that Stratasys was going to be buying Desktop Metal for $1.8 billion, with a B, dollars. And, yeah, Desktop Metal was just purchased for somewhere between 183 million and 135 million. That's it. That's it. So Nano Dimension got Desktop Metal on the cheap by just playing the long game. Desktop Metal, for those that don't know, make printers very similar to, like, the Prusas you see behind me. And there's a Fusion 3 there, there's a Taz 6 there, there's an XL over there, there's a Bamboo somewhere down there. It's off camera, you can't see it. So they make printers just like those, but they print in metal. Now, it's a metal-laden filament. It does need to be post-sintered. It's a cool process, and they're one of the best at it. You might say, but Grant, I can just go get Virtual Foundry filament and do it the same way. You can, but Desktop Metal printers do a lot of the math for you for shrinkage and all of that. So, big win there. It solves a lot of issues, but of course their machines are considerably more expensive. Mind you, 150 to 180 million dollars, I think is a really, really affordable deal. And Nano Dimension, for those who don't know, Nano Dimension, like their name might state, does nano 3D printing. So I will be very curious to see what the value of Desktop Metal is to Nano Dimension. Desktop Metal, similar to Nano Dimension, I'm fairly certain, and definitely similar to Shapeways, went public when a bunch of these 3D printing companies were doing what is called a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. Believe it's company. And the SPAC has traditionally been a very bad way for 3D printing companies to go public. And it's what ultimately caused the failure of Shapeways, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. So I'm really curious to see what the goal of Nano Dimension acquiring Desktop Metal actually is. But this could be something that Max CEO of Formlabs, his name is immediately escaping me, which is upsetting to me. But CEO of Formlabs said companies just don't do, where they acquire other companies for intellectual property reasons. And they definitely do that. And if you don't believe me, look at 3D Systems. Now, look at 3D Systems as a whole. Okay, look at their stock price. It shot to like $90 a share. Now it's trading somewhere considerably lower than that. That was when 3D Systems was just buying intellectual property with as much money as it had, as often as it could. It was like Supermarket Sweep, but for tech companies. And yeah, they shelved the bulk of that IP for it to never be seen again. So claiming that companies don't do that is stupid. They definitely do. And they definitely do in this industry. Sorry. Like, we have evidence to prove it. Anyways, the Desktop Metal acquisition is something that I'm really curious about because I don't know how much longer either of those companies had. Nano Dimension was finally posting decent numbers, but Desktop Metal was not. So that's a weird one. But certainly seeing your company's acquisition deals go from 1.8 billion to 185 million max. What is that? Literally a 1% of what it was valued at? Is that right? Yeah, literally it is. I think so. I don't know. It's a considerably lower amount of money. So Stratasys, when their board rejected the buyout, definitely, I think, made the right move. But I guess we'll see what the future that Nano Dimension does with this intellectual property. Will be an interesting one to see the future on. Anyways, I didn't call out the cool people that are here. We got Max H is here, Mad Cat USA. Who else is here? Max H has been giving us his set list while he's been waiting out the show. David Connor Shover is here. Stuart Fisher, Geocacher, Mike from Never Let the Machines Win, Zerno, Miss Amber B herself, Breaker 3D, Justin, one of the organizers of the Rocky Mountain Rap Fest, Matrix Tech, Nathan Chu, Thomas, Mr. Tiberum, Steve Builds, who, as soon as we are done here, we're going to go kick you guys over to Steve to hang out with Steve. Let's see, Morton Larson, James the Printer, who, if you don't follow on Twitter, you totally should, because he made spinners for a lawnmower, and I really want to modify it to fit my lawnmower. Because now that my lawnmower kind of sort of works, although my push mower is upset at me, that's a whole different story. That's just a carb job. But I want to flex on the haters and flex on the neighbors by putting spinners on it. I'm just saying, that's super cool. James the Printer did it, and it is really, really cool. Anyways, Ricky B is here. Bearded Bucket is here. Joseph Griner, if I didn't say that earlier. Nathan, Winslow Joy, Dark Third Dimension, Kenneth Sang, and I'm sure many, many others. So, no other kind of news. Oh, yeah, no, we're only doing 3D printing news. And if you tried to ask me any questions related to things not 3D printing, because if you've turned on the news, you know what I'm referencing, we're just going to mute you for the rest of the day because we're not getting into that here, okay? Thanks? Awesome. Anyways, let's look at Shapeways, right? Because while I'm excited for Nano Dimension and Desktop Metal, I am a little bit worried for that because I just don't know. I just don't know what Nano Dimension has that Desktop Metal has that Nano Dimension wants. So, who knows? But Nano's definitely been gobbling up stake in other companies. So, very curious to see what their goal is in the future, because they own like 12%, right? Yeah, 12% of Stratasys. Now they have acquired Desktop Metal. What is Nano Dimension trying to do here? Right? I am very, very curious. Very curious. Because, let me see. So, there's a they have a statement saying that we're excited to bring together our pioneering complementary product portfolios that will further enhance our ability to serve our customers in high growth industries with a more complete offering of digital manufacturing technologies for metal, electronics, casting, polymer, micropolymer, and ceramic applications. We look forward to working with Nano Dimension to join two great companies and their devoted teams to serve our stakeholders to the maximum extent possible. That is corporate speak if I have never seen it. Yes, will better allow us to make money. That's right. And I love that last bit, to serve our stakeholders to the maximum extent possible, because these companies are publicly traded and therefore they have a fiduciary responsibility to make the decisions that are best financially for their shareholders. It doesn't matter if it's the best decision for the company. It is the best decision for the shareholders, right? And if you as a company don't do the best thing for your shareholders and you are publicly traded, you could be sued by those shareholders, at least last my understanding was. And you don't want that, because now you have to start proving everything that you've done and the fact that it's actually useful. So that's a weird one. So I don't know, right? It feels weird, but Nano's been acquiring percentages over of quite a few companies in this industry. So I'm wondering if they're just gobbling shares of companies to try to control the industry. We will see. But as Cam Plays says, they don't need Desktop Metal. I fully agree. It's about consolidation. And yeah, right, Desktop Metal has a lot of very valuable intellectual property, and there's only a couple of other companies out there that have, like, fully built technology to compete with it, right? I believe Markforged with the Metal X is one of the only other ones, and Markforged just started doing binder jet 3D printing for metal, so I don't really know if Markforged is going to keep playing the metal FDM or if they're going to be pushing more into binder jetting, because binder jetting is a really cool tech. It's cheap too. Binder jetting is very, very cheap compared to other techs. So yeah. Matt guesses, I wonder how much stock Desktop Metal had in Stratasys. I don't know the answer to that. Because they were a publicly traded company, you can actually look for that stuff. You can look it in their quarterly reports and their year-end reports. You should be able to see what holdings, if any, that the companies have. So obviously, again, this is not financial advice, and this is, nope, Grant, it's backwards for you. And this is a cat. Merch coming at the end of the month, so stay tuned for that. By the way, if you are in the continental United States and you win, you get a free spool of Jessie filament. If you are not in the continental United States, you have a few options. You can, one, pay for the shipping, import, and all of that to get that spool of filament to you. Two, you could get a free t-shirt when we do launch our merch store. Or three, we can find a number, and I don't have that number yet, but a donation that we can make to the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation through 3D Musketeers because you won. Because, yeah, just because you won outside the United States doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to do any good. So, and apparently we're getting some diamond hands in the chat. I don't know if people actually get that reference anymore. I feel like that's an old enough reference that it's not valid anymore. Anyways, let's push over to Shapeways. Let's do Shapeways, because it kind of throws in here, because Shapeways was another company that went public under a SPAC back in 2021. Shapeways met the market with an $86 per share valuation, and it quickly tanked. Shapeways, because they couldn't maintain a $1 per share level, right? They couldn't maintain $1 per share. They were delisted, and they had to go to a different stock exchange. Shapeways, like many SPAC-based 3D printing companies, struggled when they went public. Shapeways seemed to be doing just fine before they went public. We covered this heavily in Friday's video, and we're going to cover Micronics and Formlabs specifically in Wednesday's video. So if you want to see kind of my deep dive into that, talking about it from a more concise business perspective and a concise consumer perspective, let me know, because I think you guys are going to, I think that video is not going to have as many likes as I'd want it to have, but I'm going to talk about a little bit more why here when we get into Micronics. But I would hedge a bet that most of you have heard of Shapeways before, right? You know who Shapeways is. You understand them. They are a company, right? They used to make 3D printed stuff. They were one of the largest marketplaces for 3D printing on the planet, right? I would guess now that Etsy is, you know, probably taken over, but Shapeways was a place that only did 3D printing. Now, they started right at the end to try to bring in CNC milling. They had a whole software side of their business. I don't really know what's going on there. But they were very clearly pulling at heartstrings to try to save the company. Since Shapeways went public, they were losing millions of dollars a year. So while 3D Musketeers might be considerably smaller than Shapeways, I can confidently say we have never lost anywhere near the amount of money that Shapeways has. So good job to the team at 3D Musketeers. In fact, we've been profitable lately, which is always good. There are a couple of years there that were a bit touch and go, but I think a lot of 3D printing service bureaus, especially ones that literally built their business on scanning people, which is what we originally built our business on, kind of got hurt during 2020. Some things happened then. Maybe you heard of the human malware. Maybe you didn't. I don't know. I'm finding that with a lot of the younger viewers that we have, those times are very much a blur to them. And I kind of agree. It is a blur. But dude, that's been like almost the last 5 years of my life. And that is really weird to say. Anyways, Shapeways went south fast. Shapeways was raising their prices. Like, we were always below Shapeways' price, but Shapeways almost doubled their pricing on certain technologies. And I totally understand why they did. A lot of these technologies are incredibly labor intensive. And even further, a bunch of people just don't understand how to design for 3D printing. We were a production partner with Shapeways for about a year or so, where we would do parts for Shapeways and ship on their behalf. Shapeways had this whole platform where you, as a certified business that had a certified quality and all of these things, were able to work with Shapeways. Cool, you might say. That's awesome. And I would agree with you. That is both cool and awesome. However, the problem was that the bulk of the jobs that were sent to us were people that didn't understand how to use the particular technology. So we were a production partner specifically for the CJP color jet printing, otherwise known as full color sandstone, otherwise known as the Z-Corp process, otherwise known as the ProJet 3, 5, 6, and 800 series from 3D Systems. At our peak, we had 5 full-color sandstone 3D printers. They were the 600 series because that is the best bang for the buck as far as those machines go. When we looked at the parts, right, you had certain things to deal with, right? They couldn't be less than 2 millimeters thick, because if they were, they would break in transit. They had to have at least 2 drain holes so you can get that powder back out of the machine and back out of the part, because if the parts were hollow, you had to get the powder out. Do that, you had to use a air gun, like a airbrush gun, and we used blunt tip needles to get deep into parts so we could blow the powder out. So you had to have an entrance and an exhaust. So there were just a lot of weird technical things with this printer that made it that the average person designing didn't understand how to design it. Now, that world has changed considerably, right? I'm looking at like 2017, 2018 for 3D printing, right? The world of design has changed considerably since then. So if you're like, Grant, that's not a problem now, you're right. It's considerably less of a problem now than it was back then. Just something to make note of. But Shapeways had more than just that. They had their SLS. They eventually brought on MJF when it was announced. MJF is HP's whole answer to SLS. They had metals. So they did pretty much any metal that you needed outside of like the really hardcore stuff, right? They would do the stainless, they would do titanium, right? Normal metals for metal 3D printing. And they had customers in the aerospace industry. The problem here is that it is difficult to price some of these projects because there's normally a lot of labor involved in it. And unfortunately, Shapeways was burning capital. Like upwards of, what is it, $19 million was their final posted loss for 1 year. That is a lot of capital to just ignite in doing this. And so, was it... Yeah, I think it was TCT. It was one of the magazines that did a press release on it. They said that the biggest problem with Shapeways is that they went public. They tried to grow too quickly. And as soon as you go public, you are required to do what is best for your shareholders. And if you don't, they can sue you. So Shapeways had to raise their prices. They had to reduce their staff members to try to lean out their business model to make more gross profit. And they did. They were making more gross profit. But they were also losing more money because they had some other level of unsubstantiated loss that was added in post the gross numbers. So I think that's the variable part of it. I think the fixed cost goes into gross and variable goes into net. This is why I have an accountant. I firmly believe that small businesses should just have accountants. Focus on what you do good, which is bringing business into your company. Don't focus on three-letter organizations and stuff like that. That is much more preferred for a professional to do it. Unless your profession is being an accountant, then by all means, do your own accounting. But, yeah. I didn't do well in accounting in college. Kind of got a good average in there, but the guy that was top of the class, he's my accountant now, which is hilarious. He became a certified public accountant. He runs his own business doing this. He's got tons of clients. We were one of his first clients, and we've been with him since the start of the company, and it is the easiest money that I pay every single month is to make sure that my accountant and bookkeeper, which happen to be the same company, are taking care of what they need to take care of. So, bit of business advice there. Focus on what you're good at. Outsource the things you aren't. Joseph Griner says, I don't understand how a business runs at a loss year after year. Do they just have to keep selling the idea and getting investment? Well, so just because you're running at a loss does not mean you are financially in the negative, right? So there was a couple of years where 3DM did not make a net profit. We had a net loss, but we never went insolvent. So insolvency, which is what Shapeways is dealing with, is where they have loans that they can't pay. They had a guaranteed loan that they could not pay, and it was for just under $700,000. And because they could not pay that loan, that triggers bankruptcy. Because now all of a sudden, it's clear that they don't have enough cash to keep their business moving. There was a attempted $5 million save of the company, but it was rejected. Because they knew, theoretically, that even with those $5 million, there was no chance of this ever actually going well. Shapeways went public too early. They should have bought back all of their shares and just brought the company private again. That would have been the smart move. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And because Shapeways could not pay back the guaranteed loan that they had, they went insolvent. Candid Prole says, it's almost like being an economy on infinite growth is a bad idea. Well, I'm not going to comment too much on that because inflation is hurting everybody, not just us, not just you. It is hurting everybody. Just like my internet is hurting still, 3% of all frames dropped. Spectrum. You had someone come out Thursday morning and you said you fixed it. You didn't fix it. You never fixed it. It's been 5 years of this. I'm upset. But yeah, Shapeways, and because again, Shapeways is a publicly traded entity, you can go find their financials and read through them yourselves. They never made a profit. They never made a profit when they went public. And a lot of this is that there is just so much like work involved in this. Running high-end machines is not just something that you can do part-time, right? You can run FDM machines part-time and still make great money, right? It is very easy to just click print and walk away. These bigger machines, often you don't click print and walk away. You click print, you wait, you make sure everything looks good, and especially on powder printers, dealing with recoding, okay? It is basically the problem that everyone that's had issues with Micronics that are non-electrical, we've had a lot of electrical issues with Micronics printers, like, I'm fairly certain, like, almost half of them have had pretty serious electrical issues, but I know of 3 that had recoder issues, and since only 6 are out in the world, to, I think there's 7 total, but 6 went to content creators. That means half of those machines have recoder issues. Recoders are the most important thing for powder-based 3D printing, right? Yes, you need to dump the right amount of powder, but if the recoder that spreads that powder out, right? So you have a hopper or some way to bring powder to an area, then there is a blade or a roller that scrapes it out over your print bed, okay? Those are the things that you need to operate perfectly, right? For my type of powder-based 3D printing, we have a counter-rotating roller. So as the machine spreads the powder, there is a roller that is rotating in the counter direction of the movement, okay? So what that does is it basically compacts the powder and really cleans up that surface. So the top surface of the powder looks like glass. And when the powder looks really, really clean and smooth, your next layer goes down really well. For those that don't know what SLS is, it is selective laser sintering. That's what it stands for. Selective laser sintering is where you take a laser and melt selectively the powder. Okay? It is as cool as you think it is. And machines like the Micronics printer, okay, those use darker powder because they use a lower powered laser. The bigger machines that are out there use higher powered lasers, therefore they can use white powder. Now, I happen to like the gray powder. I don't particularly have an issue with it, and it's very simple to just go ahead and dye it black, right? So you can get the Henry Ford method very effectively with even low-powered SLS machines. But if you've watched any of the reviews or looks, right, particularly the Strange Parts one and the one from Uncle Jesse, who just posted his video yesterday or the day prior, SLS is very intensive. And Uncle Jesse says, this process is not for me. It is way too prosumer and professional for the work that he does. He's a resin guy. And that's a really cool thing to take a look at, because what they had 500 backers almost, right? 491, I think is what he said in his video. I would argue that at least 80% of those backers had no idea about how to actually build a powder room, right? Powder 3D printing, and Shapeways had this, needs dedicated rooms with dedicated filtration, dedicated exhaust, and you need to wear a monumental amount of PPE. The powder is dangerous. It will harm your lungs. We're like silicosis level, okay? You can recover from it, but it's very, very dangerous, okay? So this powder is no joke, right? And I know firsthand, I have gotten very sick from not wearing PPE around our powder printers. This was many, many years ago. This was actually the impetus that started 3D Musketeers, was me getting very, very, very sick from using powder printers. And I learned violently PPE. It's why you see me talk a lot about, resin is toxic and things like that, because I learned the hard way. You don't need to learn the hard way. Don't learn the hard way. The powder itself is not toxic. Nathan Chu says powder is toxic, ? It's not. In fact, nylon is relatively inert as far as powder goes. But if you know anything about baking, you know that the baker has the highest probability of having a fire if they're close to an open flame. atomized powder is incredibly flammable, okay? A flower fire is like TNT levels of problematic. It is dangerous, okay? Um and if you don't know how to contain that, you've got a bad time. And also, it will clog air filters, lickety split. But yes, combustible dust hazards. That's correct. And actually, the Mythbusters did a whole thing on this where they made a little cannon out of a 55-gallon drum and put a road flare with a bunch of sawdust and just shot it into the air. It went up like just insane. Yeah, as Joseph Greiner says, flour mills used to explode. Yeah, they did. They still do. There's still a huge potential of this actually occurring. So, you gotta be a little careful, because otherwise you're gonna be bad. But like, if you don't have the ability to either get a dedicated room for a powder printer, or at least go full on Dexter with it, right? I want Visqueen everywhere. I want it on the floor. If you can't make a dedicated and sealed room for powder printers, they will wreak havoc on everything. See, the thing with powder is once it's atomized, it's static. It's got static to it. So anything that has static, like that's got a static charge, is going to attract the powder. Think, not electro. Is it electroplating? No. Powder coating. Think powder coating. Powder coating. It will powder coat anything that has a static charge to it. So this is a funny thing. Now, this is a great little anecdote for those that don't know about powder printing. The Z Corp line of printers from Z Corporation that 3D Systems bought and converted to their ProJet line, those machines were a very specific color from Z Corp. They were a specific color that would not show the dust that was on it. 3D Systems said, that's ugly, we don't like that color, and they made it a dark gray. And you could just, the dust was obvious. Like, it looked like if we were running multiple machines, the desk in that room where we would do, post-processing and all that, looked like Tony Montana paid it a visit. Like, to the point where we would get asked questions, we'd go outside and dust off our lab coats. They're like, what are you making in there? And why does that look like some booger sugar? I'm like, well, technically, if you don't have respirators on, it will become boogers, but it's not sugar. You feel me? Hilariously, it's also very expensive, about $40 a pound when you buy it in 30-pound increments. And that's just, it's gypsum powder, basically. But there's some other 11 herbs and spices that they put in there. Anyways, yeah, colors can matter a lot in this industry because the dust becomes prevalent. And like computers, dude, the computer that we had in that room, we would have to dust almost daily because of the amount of just crap that the fan would take in. If you are going to be connecting a SLS printer to a computer, I highly recommend that you get a computer that does not need fans on it. Right? Because otherwise, oh my gosh, it's just... ugh. Anyways. Yeah, you got to be very careful with this, and I feared that a lot of Micronics owners, or Micronics backers, actually, no one actually owned Micronics printers. Like a lot of Micronics backers did not understand that, and they were going to get a rude awakening when they get powder all over their house or all over their garage, and they have no idea how to actually get it out. So, why did Shapeways fail? Well, Shapeways had a lot of costs. They had production facilities across the world, with one of their big ones being in New York itself, but they had a lot of facilities so that they could get shipping times down low. Well, the problem with this is you've got a lot of capital expenditure. Big boy SLS printers start at $100,000. If you're lucky, they end up somewhere in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. And if you're looking for the big SLS printers, like the EOS 770s, you're looking at $600,000 plus. Okay. Now, for a lot of you, that is more than the house that you're in. It's more than rent for quite a few years. But Shapeways had to put up that capital immediately to build out their facilities. And I'm sorry, but there's a lot of money in buying machinery like that. And while, yes, you can amortize it out over the course of a few years and be able to write off the costs and all that, it doesn't save you from the capital expenditure immediately of utilizing that money to buy equipment. Even further, right? Because you're missing the thing. It is never about the cost of the machine. It is the cost of consumables, it is the cost of maintenance, and it is the cost of the maintenance contract where it kills you. Let me explain. The powder 3D printers that we have, and I still have one of them. It's for sale, by the way, if you're looking to get into powder 3D printing and you don't want to go with laser-based, you want to go with gypsum-based, let me know. I got one. It is ready to ship. It has been professionally put into shipping mode. I am the professional. I am actually technically fully trained to service these machines, but 3D Systems does not certify users. I got certified by the guy that certifies users. It's complicated. We're going to go further, though, because this machine, if you don't want to service it yourself, it has a service contract. Service contracts for these machines are $4,500 a year for just parts alone, not labor. It is $9,000 a year for parts and labor. This is an $89,000 3D printer, brand new. Okay? So you're talking about 10% of the machine cost per year just to keep it running. Now, eventually, when you get enough machines, you hire in your own techs to keep it running. That's the right way to do it, right? You hire in your own repair techs. But a lot of these companies require some sort of service contract on these machines, or they refuse to sell you parts. Welcome to the world of industrial additive manufacturing, because hardware as a service is totally becoming a thing, and I don't like it. Anyways, we run into this problem where a $200,000 machine can have a $20,000 to $40,000 a year service contract that you cannot get out of. You are stuck in it. And those are costs that, while you know what these costs are, they have to add in to the amortization of your machine cost. All of a sudden, it is very complicated for what these machines actually cost, because it's never just the cost of the machine itself. And it's never just the cost of the consumables. It's the cost of the maintenance contract, the cost of the person to run it, the multiple people you need to run it, the people that just do post-processing, or the machines that you make for post-processing. All of this has a problem. And it adds up to time. And when you're trying to do this yourself, let's say you have a Micronics printer, or you were going to be getting a Micronics printer, this becomes a problem. Because if you're spending all of your time dealing with powder, you don't have time to do anything else. The Micronics printer, while it was really cool at $4,500, I think a lot of people were buying it for the prospect of having powder without truly understanding what it means to have powder. So part of me's, I don't know, part of me's like, yeah, this is the right thing. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into that, because I feel like my personal biases with Micronics and some behind closed door conversations I've had with the Micronics team will bleed into a live reaction, rather than one where I can pre-record it and we can cut out some of those ones that are based on private conversations. I'm not under an NDA. I could publicize those conversations, but I'm also not a jerk. So, Troy J asks, how does that powder compare to printer toner? Printer toner's finer than it, but it will all still kind of have that same problem. With most powder, and I'm assuming printer toner might be similar, humidity is a big factor. You actually don't want low humidity. You don't want high humidity either. You want somewhere in the 40 to 60% is normally requested, because the lower the humidity is, the higher the static risk is. And above 60% ambient humidity, you're going to start growing mold. So don't do that. Like, mold and mildew start to become a huge problem in powder printers when you go above 60% ambient humidity. So don't do that, please. So, Micronics. I know a lot of you want to hear my thoughts on Micronics, and we will have a very in-depth thought on this coming out on Wednesday, right? So I'm gonna go into it a little bit here, but I'm gonna leave you hanging on it a little bit. Sorry, simply because I want that main channel video to stand on its own, as well as to have this here as well. In fact, as soon as I'm done with this show, I'm recording that video. I've recorded some of it already. Like, I recorded my thoughts the day of the acquisition, and I'm going to now record my thoughts again a few days post-acquisition, right? So, let's get into Micronics. And as Winslow Joyce says, 72 watching and only 33 likes. Let's pump those numbers up, especially because we're giving away filament. If you all can get me to 75 likes, as soon as we hit 75 likes, I will finish my sentence and I will give away some filament right then. So if we can get 75 likes, I will give away some filament. We will still save some for toward the end. So if you can get me to 75 likes, I'll give away some more filament. Is that wrong to say? I don't know. I'm still new to this whole, like, we have material to give away, and I don't know. Just trying to give people free stuff. We got someone that complained in the comments about that, by the way. They were like, oh, look at you. You're falling from grace. You're giving away filament. I'm like, are you really complaining about potentially getting free filament in a video? Are you serious? So, not cool. Not cool. Difference, I feel like there are 70 people here. Well, hey, just got to get a few more people and everyone's got to leave a like. So, you know, we can make it happen. I only have one like to give. Yeah, well, I get it. Hey, I got to set a goal, okay? If I don't set a goal, then, you know, y'all just have to wait, I guess. As Ace of Swords says, there'll always be someone that complains. Yeah, that one just kind of, like, was a gut punch for me. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? It's like, I wanted to just, like, help you guys and give away filament, and I don't have to do anything for anyone outside of the continental United States, and we are going to be giving you things out of our own pocket, right? Printed Solid's going to be giving away a bunch of filament, right? They're enabling us to give away filament. But if you can't get that filament, I'm going to give you a shirt. That costs me money, right? That kind of, it's like, geez, man, that upset me. I'm sorry. That one rubbed me the wrong way. I'm trying to be cool about it, but it did rub me the wrong way. So if you're watching this, that was just rude. Don't be rude. All right, Micronics. So Micronics was acquired by Formlabs earlier this week in what has been described as a rug pull, screwing the little guy, this, that, and the other thing, and I think they're all wrong. Micronics, this is gonna hurt. Micronics owes you nothing. They owe you nothing. You did not buy anything. You didn't buy anything. You had a hold on money that had never even been taken out of your account yet for a 3D printer that has no guarantee of ever making it to you. They owe you nothing. They owe you nothing. And at 23 years old, Henry's 23 years old, to have a successful exit, and I know that word might make you a little bit grumpy, because if people have been seeing successful exit, but to have a successful exit at 23, freaking congratulations. I understand that you might be pissed off that this machine is never going to come to market at this price. And I think that's acceptable. I think it is acceptable to be upset at that. But it's not Micronics' fault. I'm going to give you an example, and it's going to be MakerBot, because a lot of you don't remember that. In fact, I talked to someone who said they were a little bit bummed. I said, do you remember whatever happened with MakerBot? They're like, no, I wasn't even really kind of in the industry then. So let's talk about it. Also, Bearded Bucket gifted 5 memberships. Thank you. Matrix Tech got 1. Nathan Chu, Nick T, Winslow Joy, and Mr. Tiburum all got memberships. Thanks for being awesome, Bearded freaking Bucket. Mr. Yog Shog Oth, that's a name, said, I picked a good stream to catch live for the first time. Yeah, so this is my first stream in 2.5 months where we weren't able to secure a guest. So, bit of a bummer. We are trying to have more guests on this show. So, if you, A, want to be a guest and have a cool product to show off, hit me up. But 2, or B, I guess, if you know someone that would make a good guest for the show, have them reach out to me. I want to start getting more guests on the show and, being able to kind of show off cool stuff and all of that. Boxcar World says, I got here late. Do I need to do anything to be eligible for the giveaway besides fill out the form? Just be here. That's it. That's all you need to do is be here when we call out your name. And if we call out your name and you're here, you're in. But if you leave, too bad. You don't get it. You didn't even secure Victoria from the looks of it. Yeah, where is Victoria? Oh, she's not even in her tree. So she must be in the bedroom. Yeah, don't go eat dinner. Don't go to bed, Nepomuk. Oh, poor Nepomuk. Yeah, like the 4 from last stream. We had 4 in a row that weren't available. So, MakerBot. MakerBot. For a lot of you that don't remember MakerBot, before it was bought by Stratasys, MakerBot was the king of desktop 3D printing. Nobody could touch them. They were making the best stuff, period. Okay. They got bought for $600+ million. And Stratasys completely destroyed the company. They turned MakerBot into a shell of itself. Now, because Stratasys was public, that number is public. Formlabs and Micronics, I don't know if that deal will ever be public, and we will ever know what that number was. But if you were MakerBot back in the day, and you had $600 million to just flip the bird to every one of your customers, whomever, would you do it? Because Brie Pettis did. And the industry was pissed. They were pissed. But guess what? $600 million. It doesn't matter what you feel like, jabroni. They got paid. They exited. This is business. It doesn't matter. And did it ruin Breeze and most of the other high-end people in MakerBots? Did it ruin their public approval rating? Absolutely it did. Did they care? Absolutely not. They got paid. Because at the end of the day, if you get paid, you win, right? As Wu-Tang says, cash rules everything around me. Cream get the money. Dollar bills, y'all. That's what matters in the world of business. It's money. And it's $600 million. There's very little that anybody in this chat would not do for $600 million. I'm just saying. Didn't think we'd be quoting Wu-Tang on the podcast today, did you? I was not planning on it, but it worked, so I rolled with it. Right? I could also bring up For the Love of Money, right? That's an entire song about money, but it also talks about like how money hurts people. Anyways. But it's just business, right? That is just business. And Micronics, it's business. At 23 years old, to be able to shut down a Kickstarter that is going to pay you $1.3 million to get a job to move across the country and lead a team of people for you and the 2 other people that are in Micronics. Well, at least 1 other person. Good job. Good freaking job. Good job, Micronics. Am I bummed that I will never get to be able to review a Micronics printer unless one of the other influencers and content creators that got one wants to unload it. And if any of you want to unload your Micronics printers, I will buy it because I want to make it work. I know how to do it. And even though Micronics deemed me to be too small, I was one of the first content creators to reach out to them. They deemed me to be too small of a channel to talk about their thing. I'm one of the few content creators out there that has real world experience running powder-based 3D printers. We didn't get one. I want to go into detail on it. It's a shame that we won't be able to. But the, $4,500 SLS 3D printer is dead. Formlabs will not release a printer that affordable, not on the SLS side. But let's kind of look at the numbers here, right? The Micronics printer is 160 by 160 by what, 200? The Formlabs Fuse 1 Plus is 160 by 160 by 300. It is a more compact form factor than the Fuse 1, and it is the better part of 1/10 of its price. Call it 1/5 if you want to be nice about it. That price point, if Micronics could have delivered, and that's a very big could. We're going to talk about why that's a big could. But if Micronics did actually deliver, they posed the largest threat to Formlabs that any company has ever gotten that close, right? And so Formlabs was absolutely smart in buying them up when there was enough kind of FOMO, enough kind of, well, what do we do now? Enough doubt that existed to be able to buy them relatively affordably. Now, what that price was, I don't know. But clearly it was a number that was more than comfortable for Formlabs to say, take it, take the money, take the money. I don't blame Formlabs. 100% I don't blame them at all. Good job on Formlabs for making that acquisition. As probably one of your best strategic acquisitions that I'm aware of in the history of your company. Because if Micronics was able to actually go to market, they posed a significant threat to what Formlabs actually does. Right? So, and as John Stern says, Micronics might not have even made it to shipping. It takes a lot more to actually manufacture products at scale than most people think. Exactly. And for a 3-person company, they had a lot to grow. And to grow to the size they needed to get the production stuff done, they would have likely burned up all of that money. So chances are Micronics was going to end up needing to raise seed capital, which they talked about. They talked about in their videos on the Kickstarter that this was going to be a bit of a launch pad to get a Series A funding, to get a bunch of money to secure all of this to be possible. But if they couldn't secure enough cash, they would fail to deliver, and not only would you also be pissed off at them, but you'd be out the money because there's no guarantee for Kickstarter. This is the best possible outcome for, quite frankly, for Formlabs, but it's the best possible outcome for Micronics because there is a guarantee of a return on investment for the entire team at Micronics, and I feel like they totally understand that. Good on them. Congratulations, Henry, Luke, and Frank, I think is the third guy, but most people know Henry and Luke. Congratulations. You guys successfully exited a company in your mid-30s, or your mid-20s, excuse me, and also got day jobs out of it. Now, chances are there's a fair bit of money tied up in shares that need to vest, and they will have to work at Formlabs for a certain amount of time to get those shares vested. So there is some still, well, maybe it's not worth this much going on in their head. So there's a lot to still discuss there. But congratulations, you guys did it. That is business, baby. Yes, the people can be upset, but for the love of God, stop being so tone deaf in your own Discord. Like, Henry specifically is so unbelievably tone deaf in his own Discord, it is a little upsetting to me. I'm going to stop talking about that because I've got a lot of personal things going on there. But we have some questions in the chat, so let's go over them. LGRFBS says, what 3D printer today could do what Shapeways ultra fine detail plastic did? Polyjet, because that's what they were using. It's Polyjet. And as Sporluck says, Shapeways bankruptcy can get you a cheap SLS printer. It could, and we did even talk about that. They will be liquidating assets, and that liquidation could get you a SLS printer for pretty cheap, but it likely will have been sitting for a while. And that sitting, right? Industrial grade printers don't like to sit unless they're properly put away for storage, which like ours are. Industrial grade printers do not like sitting. Things fail when they sit. They do not like sitting. So they don't, right? You want to run them because the more your machine sits still, the more chance they have to fail. If you keep them running, they tend to run generally quite well. So yeah, you could get machines, but then like these machines are like the industrial grade SLS, you're talking like at least 240 volt, right? And if you're in the UK and the EU, fine. But in the US, that's a bit of a problem. And a lot of them are also three-phase. So multi-phase is generally not possible at home. So, yeah. Johnson says, I wonder if the acquisition conversation started open source. It did. They talked about it in the Formlabs video. It absolutely did. They talked about it. Let me see. Troy J said, would it actually have been possible for them to survive selling the printer for that price? I don't think so. I really don't. But let us not forget that the Formlabs Fuse 1 started at a price of $10,000. The Formlabs Fuse 1 was supposed to come out at $10,000, and we had a deposit. I think it was a $1,000 deposit that we had with Formlabs. And then Formlabs said, hey, actually, it's going to be like $15,000 or $16,000. And I said, nope. At 10 grand, I'm interested. At 15,000, I'm no longer interested. I will outsource it. And so we got our money back. So let's not forget that Formlabs tried to do it at 10 grand and they couldn't do it. So they had to go to 15. Micronics is certainly more of a lean SLS printer. It doesn't use a ytterbium fiber laser, which I hope I said that right. Formlabs uses I think it's a 30 watt ytterbium fiber laser. Micronics uses a 5 watt blue diode laser and a in-house designed Galvo system, right? And the Galvo is normally where a lot of the SLS printers will succeed or fail, right? But yeah, certainly there are some concerns here that Formlabs is going to just nuke the idea of a affordable SLS 3D printer. Now, the nice thing is, all of the statements that people have made are public record at this point, and we have screenshots of a lot of it. So if it ages like milk, great, we can call them out for it. But I think a lot of people would love to eat some humble pie if Formlabs does actually release, like, you know, the Fuse Micron or something like that. Sabir Buck says, I think it's hard to separate being happy for the individuals getting paid and the loss of the community. They didn't open source their work, so it's likely to never see the light of day without more. I agree. And that is something that's a bit of a bummer. But let us not forget that their IP is part of why they were bought. They were bought for their IP, right? So, of course, they're not going to open source it. That would nuke their deal. And is really open sourcing it worth whatever that they got? Probably not. They're worried about their exit, right? You have a couple of options as a small business owner. You can build a company and run it for the rest of your life. It can succeed or it can fail, right? If it fails, that's your exit. You can choose to run the business until the day you die and then pass it to your kids so you never actually exit the business. Well, you exit it by passing. Or you can choose to sell the business, exit the business successfully with money in your pocket. Often that idea of money now versus the potential of money later is a very, very warm, fuzzy feeling that makes you say, well, shit, I could retire this money. I wouldn't have to work again. This would be kind of nice. And a lot of companies take the buyout offer because, well, it makes sense. I understand that the community feels like they're somehow, you know, slighted by Micronics, but the Micronics owes you nothing. I understand that you can be upset, but this is business. It's just how it works. So, yeah. 4 more likes, Speedy Gamer 802 says, I'm seeing 3 more needed on my side. And then we'll give away, I don't know. How many spools should we give away today? You all tell me, how many spools do you think we should give away? John says, I'm wondering if the acquisition... Oh, no. I already went over that. Zern says, hopefully it does mean that Formlabs releases a printer that is more affordable than their current lineup. That would be cool. A happy kid says, I don't like that business strategy. I want SLS to be accessible. Right now, I'm only able to access SLS in my lab and university. Well, that's better than most of us, right? That's better than most of us. So I would say that that's pretty good. But SLS being accessible doesn't mean that it's going to be successful, right? If your machine requires a lot of maintenance and is finicky and has like issues with the cake fusing like Uncle Jesse had, is that really accessible? Does that work? I don't know, right? Accessible is such a broad term. You want it to be cheap and you want to be able to own it. And the vast majority of people do not understand what it takes to run a powder printer, and I worry about that. All right, we got it. I see 76 likes, so we got it. So let's see what we're gonna do. Joss Inland says 1 each. Absolutely not. I don't have that much filament to give away. Winslow Joy says 6. I like 6. 6 is a good number. We're gonna give away 6 today. We're gonna give away 3 right now, and then we're gonna give away 3 toward the end. So. If you entered right now, your responses will still be useful at the end of it. So let's see. That's funny. Only 42 of you signed up for filament. That's not my fault. Not my fault at all. So let's run this here real quick. We got sort A to Z. Let's grab everybody from today so far. Let's put you into the wheel. You're all not going to be able to see this. I'm sorry, but this is just the way that it goes. Shuffle a few times. Click spin. Oh, it makes noise. I didn't realize it made noise on the spinning wheel. Dark Third Dimension for the first spool. Are you there? Dark Third Dimension. Dark Third Dimension. Are you there? John Stern, if you were too late, you'll have access to the next one. Dark Third Dimension. He is taggable. Great. Dark Third Dimension. You get the first spool of filament going out today. Sweet. Oh, actually you don't. You're in the UK. Well, that'll be interesting. I guess you're going to get a shirt. All right. Cool beans. That's one less spool I have to give away today. All right. We're going to remove it, and we're going to do it. I am muting this site. I do not want you to make noise. Next up, we have Reth. We have Reth. R-E-T-H. Reth. Is Reth here? So Dark Third Dimension, DM me either on Twitter or Discord, and once the shirts are available, we'll send you one. Reth is there. Awesome. Reth, good job. Congratulations. Reth, you are in the United States, so that is a spool of filament. DM me on either Twitter or Discord, and we can get all of that sorted. And let's see what else we got here. Winslow Joy for the third one going out today. We got him in the US. Let's go. Winslow Joy for the filament. Reach out. You all know how to do that. Congratulations to the winners. Let's just get back to the show, because we're going to give away 3 more by the end of the video. So, or by the end of the stream, whatever it is. I know, I've seen Winslow in the chat, so... Winslow, you better be there. Okay, there you go. I'm like, I've seen Winslow in the chat. So congratulations to the winners. We will be giving away more filament toward the end, so stay tuned for that. I'm just kind of scrolling back up here. Happy Kid says, I don't think Formlabs focuses on individuals, though it would be cheap for a startup and it would be expensive for someone curious to hobbies. And they don't, right? Formlabs does not curate to the cheap user, but the Micronics printer was not cheap either, right? Yes, I get it. You could buy 6 microns for the price of a Fuse 1. But let's be clear. The Fuse 1 Plus has a much better ecosystem. Its powder handling is way better. Its powder sifting is way better. Its combination where you can get the new powder and the old powder and it mixes it for you is way better. And that's part of the benefit of a Formlabs, right? You pay for it, but you get a lot of extra value in that system. So, yeah, it's not cheap, but I think that it's valuable, right? And there's a differentiation to be had there. Does that mean that Micronics would never have something like that? No. But they have to first succeed in shipping the printers before they could succeed to ship any, like, accoutrement that would go with it. You know what I mean? And as Zerno said, affordable is always relative. Formlabs is still affordable compared to what existed before it. And he's right. And while, yes, Sinterit, Sintratech, and a couple of others, although Sintratech is now insolvent, so Sinterit is probably the last, like, cheaper SLS. They have machines starting at, like, 10 grand. Sinterit is not the best. Their Lisa X is very, very expensive. I would buy a Fuse 1 before I buy the Lisa X, personally. But, yeah, Formlabs actually has a relatively affordable SLS. It's just not relatively affordable to consumers. It's relatively affordable to businesses. There's a difference there. So Sporlex says, does accessible really mean at home? Shapeways was accessible. And that's true. Accessible doesn't really mean at home. Convenient means at home. Accessible means just something where you can easily go and order it, right? And it gets to you relatively quickly. But as a lot of the content creators have shown us, it is not simple to use SLS. It can run into a lot of problems that you might not understand how to do if you don't already have experience. And so getting your teeth cut on a machine that's designed for someone that kind of already has an idea of what they're doing, more or less, kind of, sorta, is very difficult versus one that is designed and trains you how to use it. Those big machines come with training packages. There's a reason they're so expensive. They teach you how to use them too. And that teaching, that education is often more important than the machine itself, in my opinion. Happy Kid says true, and it will also be expensive to buy the feedstock and is extremely dangerous. Yep. Matt says, what about companies like Send Cut Send? They're a service-only company like Shapeways. The only difference is that they are in China. Well, I mean, JLC, PCB, and PCBWay are doing the same thing, right? They've started up, 3D printing service bureaus on top of their PCB lines, and it seems to be going well, but just like, we had a guy reach out to us for a part. This is a good one. He was looking at it through CraftCloud, and CraftCloud gives you 3 prices. It gives you the cheapest price, and gives you the fastest, and then gives you kind of the medium. We were going to be above the medium, but under the most expensive. He's like, well, I can get it for $50 from this guy. I said, if you're willing to wait 2 to 4 weeks, it said delivery between 10 and 20 business days. So if you're okay with waiting between 2 and 4 weeks to get it, by all means, take the $50 one. But if you want to get it by, like, Monday, we can get that done for you. And you know what? If you're okay with waiting, go get it for less, right? A lot of the service bureaus like 3D Musketeers, we survive on the fact that most people don't want to wait 4 weeks to get their stuff, right? And even if you're shipping out of China, unless you're spending a bunch of money for fast shipping, you're taking a week to get it to you. So even if they can have a fast turnaround at, PCBWay or JLC, you still have this issue with shipping, which can be very costly and really affect the way that the pricing works. Because now all of a sudden, sure, it's cheap, but does cheap really matter when you're waiting so long to get it? Spear Bucket says, oh yeah, I fully understand the value in them retaining their IP. Hopefully this inspires more people to try their hands at pushing additive forward. I totally agree. I totally freaking agree. Yeah, I totally agree with this. So I'm very curious as to see if any of this changes in the future, right? Will people's opinions of Micronics change? I don't know. Because, like, right now, their Discord got really, really angry. Yeah, they got real pissed. Saying, oh, it's a rug pull. And I'm like, it's not a rug pull. I understand it feels that way, but it's not a rug pull. They don't owe you anything. But this will be interesting because Formlabs does a lot in America, and America manufacturing is a big deal, right? You know me. I love American manufacturing. I think that if we can bring some of that back to the United States, that would be good, right? Give Americans working jobs, like real good jobs they can work for a long time. Now, while we aren't at that point as 3D Musketeers, right? We are fully like America staffed locally, but we are not building out tons of, machinery and that kind of thing right now. My hope is to one day get that done. Maybe next year will be our year of growth. We will see. But certainly, I want to start playing around with more industrial grade stuff on the channel. So if you guys want to see that, make sure to get subscribed, leave a like, and all of those things. And again, congratulations to the filament winners. We're going to be giving away a few more spools at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that as well. Joseph Grider says, didn't you do a video on the fuse printer? I did. We went and hung out when we were at in San Francisco. Yeah, scanning the 49ers. I found a guy that had a fuse printer, and we hung out for like 6 hours. It was awesome. And we talked very, very candidly about the fuse printer. We showed off some of the stuff that he was doing. That video did not get a lot of views, and I totally get why. It was not the best storytelling that I've ever done in my life, but it was a fun experience nonetheless. Sorry to those that, didn't like that video. I get it. Oh, let me see if I missed anything. No, not yet. Johnson says, look at Grant getting all fancy with words like accoutrement. He's going to lose his Florida man status at this rate. Yeah, well, Dark Third Dimension says, I only use Discord and I'm not in yours, so what can I do? You can DM me. I'm at 3D Musketeers on Discord. You can just, shoot me a Discord message. Although, did you already try? Let me see. Nope, you didn't. Yeah, just at me on, just at 3D Musketeers, send me a Discord DM. So. Or you can email me, youtube at 3dmusketeers.com. That's fine too. You can do that. So the internet rage crowd moves pretty quickly. That's true, they do. So what's this in the Micronics community? Did Micronics hype things up? Hype things up to when they canceled the Kickstarter, knowing they would cancel. To some extent, right? But I think some of the things that were said when the Kickstarter was canceled by the owners of Micronics were pretty tone deaf in there, and it pissed people off. And that's totally fair. I've captured a lot of those, and we will be showing them in Wednesday's video. So I think it's important to tell the whole story, and I'm going to, or as much of the story that I know of, right? My whole story, we should say. Manny's Engineering Industry says, try the 22 IDEX V3 from Vision Miner. If they want to send me one, I'm happy to do it. We talked at Rocky Mountain, so certainly that will likely be a thing coming soon. I hope. I would love to see that happen here on the channel. But, I'm big on USA, right? I'm big on USA manufacturing, and apparently so is Prusa. Prusament will now start to be somewhat produced here in the United States by Printed Solid. Previously, Prusament was always produced in Prague in the Czech Republic. And it's interesting because we had as much access as we could possibly get to Prusa when we went there. That video is coming within the next month or two, so stay tuned. But we were not able to go check out the Prusament line. Why? I do not know. That was the one room they would not give us access to film in. But producing filament in the way that Prusa does is not easy. They have some of the tightest tolerances of any company on the planet, period. And they have kind of set the standard for what high quality filament does. So for them to look at starting to manufacture it here in the United States is kind of a big effing deal, right? And why is that such a big deal? Well, it's not cheap to manufacture in the United States, but Prusa has likely done the math and figured out that the cost of shipping likely can be offset by just making it here instead. I love that Prusa is building out Printed Solid to be more than just an entity owned by Prusa Research, but doesn't really do anything other than resell Prusa printers that is similar to what Prusa itself does. I love that Printed Solid's been able to maintain their own filament line, which is the Jessie line, of course. We are sponsored by them, so thank you, Printed Solid, for sponsoring all the filament that we give away on the channel. You guys freaking rock. Thank you for that. Dave, Chris, and the entire team there. Everybody except Domingo. We kind of like Domingo, I guess. But everybody except Domingo. You all are cool. Domingo, you're in our server. I don't know if that makes you cool or not. Something tells me it doesn't. But we love you nonetheless. Somebody clip that and send it to Domingo in the server. Krusty realizes that I'm streaming, so I have my my call from Krusty. Let me verify that he is just messaging me because I'm streaming. And, okay. Yeah, I think so. Just want to make sure there's not like an emergency. Yep, there's Taco. Taco's here. Okay, there's not an emergency. You're cool, right? You're good? Awesome. Cool. And yeah, as Joseph Grimes says, Prusament without the shipping cost would be amazing. I totally freaking agree. And I love that Prusa is adopting this Print USA, but I think it is capital P, capital R, INT USA, because that is Prusa in caps, and I hope that they adopt that. I sent that to both Joe and Dave. I want shirts that say Prusa, but it's Print USA. I am all for supporting USA manufacturing. And that's why you haven't seen us pick up the same filament sponsor that everybody else does. I didn't want that. I wanted to support a small business in the United States that is using USA labor, and Prusa agrees with me. By adding, I should say, because I think that that's probably the smarter thing. I'm assuming they're adding. By adding Prusament manufacturing here in the United States as well, it allows them to play the game of not paying for crazy expensive shipping. But it also allows Printed Solid to expand, right? I am told that a lot has changed since we were last at Printed Solid. So if you guys are excited, I am too, because I've already booked our tickets for 3D Printopia, formerly East Coast Rep Fest. And yeah, we're going to go film with Printed Solid again. I am so excited for it because there's so much that's changed. They're also going to be doing repairs in the United States at Printed Solid. That is so freaking cool. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm glad that Prusa is investing in their investment that has been Printed Solid for this long, finally, right? Now, I will be curious to see if they can maintain the exact same tolerances. My guess is that they're going to be using the same machinery, but they're not going to have the same staff, and the environment's going to be a little bit different, right? The air is different, the altitude is different, and does that actually matter for filament manufacturing? I don't know. I don't know, but I look forward to using more Prusament. Now, we don't know what's going to happen to the price. We don't know if the price is going to stay the same or if the price is going to go up for the Made in America stuff to kind of, adjust for the USA labor. But Jessie Filament's $19.99 a kilo, no matter what it is. They lowered the price in their PETG, which is super sweet. Prusament's what, like 30, 35? That is well within my my price bracket for doing this kind of stuff. So I am really, really excited for Prusament in the United States. I really enjoy seeing that Prusa is starting to invest more in Printed Solid. Because, like, I never really understood why they bought Printed Solid. Right? Because Printed Solid is a strategic asset being a USA company. But they were, like, so far, there was no benefit to it. Right? They just owned Printed Solid. Well, now we can see the benefit. Was this in the plan from the beginning? Who knows? I'm so excited to see it. I think that that's awesome for Printed Solid. It's even better for our community. Because if you've ever tried Prusament, one, amazing colors. Absolutely beautiful colors. But two, it's really, really good filament. Like, it's proper good filament. Prusa put a lot of effort into making that stuff good. And since they're using the same lines, I'm excited. And will any of that trickle over into Jessie? I don't know. But Jessie's already really good filament. I think in the hundreds of kilos that we've used, before Printed Solid ever sponsored us, we were transitioned over to Printed Solid pretty much loan for the business. I only ever had 2 spools that I ever had issues with. They were both PETG, and they were both fairly damp. The vacuum seal had likely broken. Things happened. I said something, said, hey, I have 2 spools in the same batch. They're both very wet. Can you guys verify if you have any other spools on the shelf that it's not, a whole thing? And before they even, like, responded to me, I had my money back, which I didn't need. I did not need my money back. I would just dry the spools. It's no big deal. But that's customer service, man. That's like A+ customer service. So I think it's really cool. I think it's really, really cool. Zerna says, can we refer to them as Printed Solid looking more like Prusa Research USA, aka Prusa? Maybe. I don't know. I like the name Printed Solid. I think it's a good name, so I'm kind of here for it. And as Mr. Yog Sagoth, I'm trying here, said, oh heck yeah, I've wanted to get more Prusament for a while, but I can't justify the cost of shipping when I can just go down the road to Polar and order from someone like Atomic. Man, if you're local to Polar 3D, that is awesome. Mitch is a great guy. Mitch will be a future podcast guest, and we're going to talk about the history of Polar 3D because Polar is awesome. And I promise that episode we will not give away. I can't give away a competitor product on an episode where I'm interviewing a competitor for Printed Solid. That's just bad. That's just mean. So maybe I don't know, maybe I can convince Mitch to give away some filament on that stream. I don't know. Zerno says, for the $1.99, wet filament problems confirmed. Yeah, it can happen. Wet filament is possible, but it's not always likely. Practical Printing, Mr. Krusty himself, says they are using the same machinery, including all the customization the Prusa team adds to it. They had a team in Prague for weeks teaching the U.S. operations. Oh, well, there you go. That's the win right there. So that's how it's done, people. You train and you educate so that it is done properly. I love that. I freaking love that. John Sir says Prusament's tolerances are so tight because they perform a lot of checks during manufacturing. If I could time you out for 60 seconds just for that, I would. That is a terrible joke, but you get an upvote for that. That's a terrible joke. That's an absolutely terrible joke. Dark Third Dimension says, at 3D Musketeers, just tried, and I think I sent you a friend request instead. Yep, yeah, you did. It's fine. I'll accept it when we're done streaming. Pezla says, why not? Polymaker gave away Cookie Cat on their stream. Because if I'm interviewing somebody from a competitor, it is respectful. It is respectful to at least ask. Especially when they're both USA. So, yeah. I'm in Mexico. I buy my Polymaker from the US. Hey, that's what happens. Practical Printing says, speaking of Prusa, the XL I shipped in the car with the son-in-law made it back to Nashville in one piece, no breaks and no recalibration needed. Now just need to print. Well, that's part of the deal. That's part of the deal. Uh, Krusty just got the joke too. But yeah, I'm excited to see more manufacturing from Prusa here in the United States. I think that that's really, really adding into what this community should be, where we're investing where the customers are. Because it is very expensive to ship things, and it's logistically a nightmare. If things get caught in customs, people complain to Prusa. It's not Prusa's fault, right? They don't have a control over that. So by bringing manufacturing here to the United States for some things, that bodes well, in my opinion, for the future of Prusa, and it definitely diversifies their whole community and their entire staff to make this possible. So I think we should give away the last 3 rolls of filament. So you guys will have an extra 30 seconds or so before I close the responses to the sheet, and we give away 3 more rolls of some of Jessie's finest printed solid. I am hoping that we get Elixir relatively soon, but given what's happened with printed solid clearly adding lines for Prusament, we might be delayed on Elixir. But I still think, and I still have it. This is the test sample that we made. This should be Jessie's Elixir Silver Fox, and I will accept no others. This needs to be called Silver Fox. I'm here for it. I love that silver. But all right, I am going to close the giveaway responses now. So we are no longer accepting responses. Thank you to everybody that did go ahead and apply. I'm going to sort from A to Z. And what do we got? Did I do that right? Let me make sure I did that right. Definitely did it right. All right. We only got a few more in here. That's interesting. That's okay, though. That's life. I've been saying that's life a lot, and the editors have really been enjoying putting Frankie Manny in there, and I kind of find that hilarious. Shuffle, 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 shuffle. Spin the wheel of doom. Doom. The name is supposed to be hard to pronounce. It's Lovecraftian, so don't feel bad. Okay, well, I'm glad I don't feel bad. Yeah, hopefully we can get Prusament cheaper. I totally agree. Nick T. Is Nick T in the chat? Where's Nick T? Do we have Nick T? Can someone tag Nick T? Get him in here. Because otherwise, I'm giving away their spool. Where's Nick T in my own list? Nick T is in the EU, which means you will get a shirt if you are here. You are there. Cool. Damn, I'm giving away 2 shirts in a stream. That's an expensive stream for me. Oh, well. Dude, send me a DM on Discord or Twitter, and we will get that sorted. So I need to do that. Because, yeah, that's... You know what? I don't care. I'm okay with investing in our community. I'm totally fine with giving away clothing. We're here for it. Let's see the next giveaway winner. Waiting for the wheel to stop. Waiting for the wheel to stop. These wheels take forever to stop. Jeez. Looks like it is... And it's right on a name. Sissy Kid. All right. Is Sissy Kid in here? I'm trying to see where they are in my list. Where are they in my list? I don't see them in my list. How they get in... Hold on. I gotta search for them because I can't find it. Alright, I got them. Oh, wait, they've won before? Yeah, Sissy Kid's won before in the past. So, is Sissy Kid here? Oh, they might not even be here, so it might not matter. Nick T says, don't have my Discord. I'm at 3D Musketeers on Discord. Just go to send a message at 3D Musketeers. Is Sissy Kid here? They left for dinner and bedtime and missed the giveaway. Oh, no. They missed it. All right. Well, too bad. We've got who's getting it next. Who's getting it next? Looks like Saxophony Guy 500. Saxophony Guy 500, where are you located? Let's find you in my list. You're in the United States, so that means you get a roll of filament, assuming you're in the chat. Are you in the chat? Oh, Sissy Kid is here. Yes, I won Wednesday. Spin again. I'm here. All right. Cool. Thanks. Okay, yeah, you won on Wednesday. Did I don't know if I got your filament out yet. Saxophony Guy's here. All right, cool beans. Well, thank you, Sissy Kid, for letting me re-roll. I would have given it to you if you needed it. But, yeah, Saxophony Guy, send me a DM and we will make that happen. Was that 2? I think that was 2. Was that 2? Did you ever specify a win frequency? I didn't. I probably should. Should say that's like once a month. I feel like once a month is fair. But I did not specify a frequency. So that one's on me for not specifying a frequency. I'm going to spin one more time because I can. Because I freaking can. Let me make sure. So now it's all right. So I'm doing it once a month. So let's see who won this one. Awesome. It is Musaka. What a cool name, Musaka. Musaka, you are in the United States. Are you in the chat? Is Musaka in the chat? Can you play us a song, Sax? We probably should. Musaka is in. Do you have a moose as your icon? I love it. I absolutely love it. Anyways, that is going to be it. Congratulations to all the giveaway winners. You all reach out to me on Discord, Twitter, or email. We will get you all the filament. Congratulations to the winners. I, however, am going to get going. And so that means we are going to be ending this stream. We are going to get you all pushed over to go hang out with Mr. Steve Builds because I have to go call Spectrum and complain because, again, my stuff still doesn't work. Big thank you to Printed Solid for sponsoring the filament and allowing us to give away filament to people. Stay tuned because we are absolutely going to be giving away filament in videos as well. So, yeah, that'll require you to comment on the video as well as fill out the form. So, gonna get that sweet, interactions up. Anyways, that is all I have for you all today. It's been episode 195 of the Making Awesome podcast, all about market consolidation. That's all we have for you all today. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. Call your damn loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one.